I really appreciate the respect that you showed toward Jesus. But it's obvious that we worship a different Jesus. In the four Gospels, they all claim that he died on the cross. They say that he died and rose again. And you made the claim that the best copies that we have came from 400 years after. There's actually very good evidence from secular sources as well. This isn't just a Christian thing, that there were completed copies of all four Gospels within 30 years after Jesus' death. So should we just take your word for it that was actually changed and that the best copies are from 400 years later?
Yeah, very good question. The first point, I don't believe we believe in a different Jesus. I believe we believe in the same Jesus Christ, the Son of Mary. There was only one Jesus, Son of Mary, right? Zechariah who took...
But his character was different.
Zechariah, go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, but his character was different, so you have a different understanding of who he was fundamentally.
So it's not a different Jesus, it's a different understanding of what happened historically. Now I'm going to ask you a question. Were you there at Jesus Christ's crucifixion? So you weren't there. And I'll tell you I wasn't there either. The only way we would know what happened back then, for a surety, is if God Almighty tells us. The only book that we have today that's claimed to be from God and says to believe in Jesus Christ, that can be traced back through a unbroken transmission to its original prophet, is the Quran. There is no manuscript that has survived today that existed within the first 30 years. And if I'm not saying take my word for it, there is no manuscripts that exist. What you're talking about in the first century is something called P52, which is a small card of some verses from John. That's the earliest. Just one little card. There is no manuscript. We're not saying the gospel didn't exist in the first 30 years. We're not saying that. It may have. When did it get lost? We don't know exactly. But what we're saying is, do you have that manuscript today, and can it be carbon dated like we did with the Quran back to that time frame? It doesn't exist. There's no library in the world that will have that manuscript. And if you're claiming that there is, please tell me. Where is it?
Yeah, I don't have it in my pocket.
So you're not going to find it because it doesn't exist, right? I've studied the Bible tremendously. I've studied Bible textual criticism as well. I'm just telling you, could do your research. I'm not saying take my word for it, but I'm telling you that the first manuscript that we have is the Codex Vaticanus. And for you to say that exists in the first 30 years, the four Gospels, the 27 books of the New Testament, that was first put together by Athanasius in the 4th century. This is the first time when Athanasius said, guys, this is what we're going to call the New Testament, these 27 books. There was the Gospel of Mary, there's the Gospel of Thomas, there's tons of other, Gospel of Barnabas, there are tons of other Gospels floating around at that time. Athanasius came and said, you know what, we're going to pick these 27, forget the rest, we're going to call them Apocrypha. These 27 is going to be what we're going to call the New Testament, and from then on it became, official. So we talk about the 4th century, they still didn't decide what the New Testament was until then, right? So there's no manuscript that exists in its form. The earliest manuscripts that we have are in the thousands, which exist in Greek. Jesus spoke Aramaic, the disciples spoke Aramaic. There is no Aramaic manuscript existing in the world today that's traced back to Jesus Christ. In Islam, the Quran, look, when God says he's going to preserve the Quran reached us to two methods. One is through manuscripts, which we can test today and carbon date back. The second is through oral transmission.